Forget everything you know about pyramids, pharaohs, and golden tombs. The darkest secrets of ancient Egypt weren't buried in sand. They were etched in stone, painted on sacred walls, and whispered in forbidden rituals. Rituals so bizarre, so twisted, they'd make even modern minds recoil. These weren't just acts of lust. They were acts of power, of divine command, of cosmic manipulation. Picture this: the most powerful man in Egypt, the pharaoh, standing before the Nile at sunrise. He raises his hand, and he pleasures himself, not in secret but publicly, as thousands watch. This wasn't shameful. This was sacred, because to them, masturbation created the universe. Yes, the gods didn't speak the world into existence. One god ejaculated it into being. And this is just the beginning. In this chilling exposé, we dive deep into the most horrifying sexual rituals, myths, and royal scandals that defined ancient Egyptian culture. From divine incest to necrophilic fantasies, from ritualistic bestiality to goddesses seducing their fathers. This is the side of Egypt they never taught in school. But before we unveil these ancient nightmares, if you're fascinated by the twisted truths of royal history, you've found your home. This is Royal Conspiracies, the channel where real history is stranger than fiction. If you love dark secrets, forbidden myths, and jaw-dropping royal scandals, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with what shocked you the most, like this video to support the series, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, step into the temple. But be warned, what happens next will haunt you long before the gods of Greece or Rome. The Egyptians told a story of how the universe was born. It wasn't light from darkness. It wasn't chaos turned to order. It wasn't a great battle. It was masturbation. Yes, according to the Heliopolitan creation myth, the first god was named Adam. He stood alone on the primordial mound rising from the chaotic waters of none. There was nothing else.
No sky,
No land, no other gods.
no humans.
Only Adam and his body. And so Adam did the unthinkable. He created life by ejaculating. I created myself by myself, Adam says in ancient texts. I came into being in the form of Adam. I sneezed out Shu, and I spat out Tefnut. Modern scholars believe sneezing and spitting were symbolic terms for seminal ejaculation. Shu, the air god, and Tefnut, moisture, were born not from a mother and father, but from Adam's solo climax. In temples across Egypt, priests reenacted this myth every year during festivals. And in some versions, the pharaoh, believed to be the living embodiment of Horus, would go to the Nile, and in front of a crowd, masturbate into the river, symbolically fertilizing the land. It wasn't obscene. It was divine agriculture. To create the Nile's flood, to ensure crops, and maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order, the pharaoh's seed had to touch the water. This ancient sexual act wasn't hidden. It was institutionalized. Let that sink in. Egyptian gods didn't follow human morality. Their power was built on purity of bloodline, and so they married their siblings, their children, and even sometimes themselves. In one of Egypt's oldest tales, Geb, earth, and Nut, sky, brother and sister, were locked in a passionate embrace. Their father, Adam, separated them violently because their lovemaking was so intense. The universe itself was suffocating. Yet even separated, they gave birth to the next generation of gods. Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, who would again marry each other. Osiris married Isis, his sister. Set married Nephthys, also his sister. This divine incest was reflected in Egyptian royalty. To maintain purity, pharaohs often married their own sisters, just like the gods. One of the most disturbing cases was King Akhenaten, who likely married his own daughter after already being married to his sister wife Nefertiti. Royal blood must stay royal, even if it meant creating grotesque inbred heirs, some with elongated skulls and fused limbs, as seen in the mummies of Tutankhamun and others. But to them, this wasn't unnatural. It was the way of the gods. This might be the most bizarre tale in ancient myth. In ancient Egypt, not all sex was private. Many temples, especially those of the fertility goddess Hathor or the lion-headed Sekhmet, included sacred priestesses who may have performed ritualistic sex acts as part of religious festivals. These weren't prostitutes in the modern sense. They were known as m.tnr, servants of the god. During the festival of drunkenness, for example, worshippers would get intoxicated to the point of frenzy, reenacting the myth where Sekhmet almost destroyed humanity, until the gods tricked her with beer disguised as blood. These festivals often turned into public orgies, with sacred sex viewed as a way to invoke divine energy, bring about fertility, and release chaotic spiritual power. In some cities, young virgins were offered to the gods during festivals, not sacrificed, but sexually initiated by temple priests or elite devotees. What modern society might see as abuse, they saw as holy ritual. The god Osiris, king of the dead, was murdered by his jealous brother Set, chopped into 14 pieces, and his body parts scattered across Egypt. His wife-sister Isis collected every part, except one, the phallus. It had been eaten by a fish in the Nile. Desperate to resurrect her husband, Isis built him a new penis out of gold. She magically reassembled his body, then mounted him in the form of a bird, and conceived their child, the god Horus. That's right, in Egyptian myth, the first divine child was conceived through sex with a dead, reanimated god, using an artificial phallus. This story was not hidden. It was proudly told on temple walls. Egyptian religion was not afraid of sex. It used it in rituals, in symbols, in public ceremonies. And many modern scholars now believe this may hint at early rituals involving necrophilic symbolism, especially during mummification, where the body's preparation may have had sexual undertones to ensure rebirth. Dark, disturbing, divine. In ancient Egypt, not all sex was private. Many temples, especially those of the fertility goddess Hathor or the lion-headed Sekhmet, included sacred priestesses who may have performed ritualistic sex acts as part of religious festivals. These weren't prostitutes in the modern sense. They were known as m.tnr, servants of the god. During the festival of drunkenness, for example, worshippers would get intoxicated to the point of frenzy, reenacting the myth where Sekhmet almost destroyed humanity, until the gods tricked her with beer disguised as blood. These festivals often turned into public orgies, with sacred sex viewed as a way to invoke divine energy, bring about fertility, and release chaotic spiritual power. In some cities, young virgins were offered to the gods during festivals, not sacrificed, but sexually initiated by temple priests or elite devotees. What modern society might see as abuse, they saw as holy ritual.